Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today I'm going to read out to you my favorite chapter from the book called Atomic Habits. This is chapter number 1 and it is very interesting. The name of the chapter is The Surprising Power of Atomic Habits. Let's see what is so surprising about it. By atomic habits, it means tiny or small habits. The atomic habits does not refer to nuclear or any nuclear reaction in any way. It is talking about small, tiny habits. It starts with talking about the fate of British cycling and how it changed just in one day in 2003. The author goes on to say, the organization which was the governing body for professional cycling in Great Britain had recently hired Dave Brailsford as its new performance director. At the time, professional cyclists in Great Britain had endured nearly 100 years of mediocrity. Since 1908, British riders had won just a single gold medal at the Olympic Games, and they had fared even worse in cycling's biggest race, the Tour de France. In 110 years, no British cyclist had ever won the event. 110 years. Now let's see what he means when he says their fate changed in one day in 2003. In fact, the performance of British riders had been so overwhelming that one of the top bike manufacturers in Europe refused to sell bikes to the team because they were afraid that it would hurt sales if other professionals saw the Brits using their gear. Brailsford had been hired to put British cycling on a new trajectory. What made him different from previous coaches was his relentless commitment to a strategy that he referred to as the aggregation of marginal gains, which was the philosophy of searching for a tiny margin of improvement in everything you do. Brailsford said, the whole principle came from the idea that if you broke down everything you could think of that goes into riding a bike, and then improve it by 1%, you would get a significant increase when you put them all together. Brailsford and his coaches began by making small adjustments you might expect from a professional cycling team. They redesigned the bike seats to make them more comfortable and rubbed alcohol on the tires for a better grip. They asked riders to wear electrically heated overshorts to maintain ideal muscle temperature while riding, and used biofeedback sensors to monitor how each athlete responded to a particular workout. The team tested various fabrics in a wind tunnel and had their outdoor riders switch to indoor racing suits, which proved to be lighter and more aerodynamic. But they didn't stop there. Brailsford and his team continued to find 1% improvement in overlooked and unexpected areas. They tested different types of massage gels to see which one led to the fastest muscle recovery. They hired a surgeon to teach every rider the best way to wash their hands to reduce the chances of catching a cold. They determined the type of pillow and mattress that led to the best night's sleep for each rider. They even painted the inside of the team truck white, which helped them spot little bits of dust that would normally slip by unnoticed but could degrade the performance of the finely tuned bikes. As these and hundreds of other small improvements accumulated, the results came faster than anyone could have imagined. I will read that again. As these and hundreds of other small improvements accumulated, the results came faster than anyone could have imagined. Just 5 years after Brailsford took over, the British cycling team dominated the road and track cycling events at the 2008 Olympic Games in Beijing, where they won an astonishing 60% of the gold medals available. 4 years later, when the Olympic Games came to London, the Brits raised the bar as they set 9 Olympic records and 7 world records. The same year, Bradley Wiggins became the first British cyclist to have won Tour de France. The next year, his teammate Chris Froome won the race, and he would go on to win again in 2015, 16 and 17, giving the British team 5 Tour de France victories in 6 years. During the 10-year span from 2007 to 2017, British cyclists won 178 world championships. 178 world championships and 66 Olympic and Paralympic gold medals, and captured 5 Tour de France victories in what is widely regarded as the most successful run in cycling history. How can this happen? How does a team of previously ordinary athletes transform into world champions with tiny changes that at first glance would seem to make a modest difference at best? How? Why do small improvements accumulate into such remarkable results, and how can you replace this approach in your own life? He goes on to talk about why small habits make a big difference. It is so easy to overestimate the importance of one defining moment and underestimate the value of making small improvements on a daily basis. Too often, we convince ourselves that massive success requires massive action. Whether it is losing weight, building a business, writing a book, winning a championship, or achieving any other goal, we put pressure on ourselves to make some earth-shattering improvement that everyone will talk about or something like that. Meanwhile, improving by 1% isn't particularly notable. Sometimes it isn't even noticeable, but it can be far more meaningful, and especially in the long run. The difference a tiny improvement can make over time is astounding. Here's how the math works out. If you can get 1% better every day for 1 year, you'll end up 300. If you can get 1% better each day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. Conversely, if you get 1% worse each day for 1 year, you'll decline nearly down to 0. What starts as a small win or a minor setback accumulates into something much more. Well, I don't know how he's done the math of 37%. I was thinking if you get 1% better each day, you might end up like 367% better in a year or something like that. But anyhow, I'll go into the math later. So, habits are the compound interest of self-improvement, the same way that money multiplies through compound interest. The effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them. They seem to make little difference on any given day, and yet the impact they deliver over the months and years can be enormous. It is only when looking back 2, 5, or perhaps 10 years later that the value of good habits and the cost of bad habits becomes strikingly apparent. This can be a difficult concept to appreciate in daily life. We often dismiss small changes because they don't seem to matter very much in the moment. If you save a little money now, you're still not a millionaire. If you go to the gym 3 days in a row, you're still out of shape. But if you study Mandarin for an hour tonight, you still haven't learned that language. We make a few changes, but the results never seem to come quickly, and we slide back into our previous routines because we are looking for immediate gratification. We are looking for immediate results. Unfortunately, the slow pace of transformation also makes it easy to let a bad habit slide back in. If you eat an unhealthy meal today, the scale doesn't move. If you work late tonight and ignore your family, they will forgive you. If you procrastinate and put your project off until tomorrow, there will be time to finish it later. A single decision is easy to dismiss. But when we repeat 1% errors every day, day after day, by replicating poor decisions, duplicating tiny mistakes, and rationalizing little excuses, our small choices compound into toxic results. It's the accumulation of many missteps, a 1% decline here and there, that eventually leads to a problem. The impact created by a change in your habits is similar to the effect of shifting the route of an airplane by just a few degrees. Imagine you're flying from Los Angeles to New York City. If the pilot leaving the LAX adjusts the heading just 3.5 degrees south, you will land in Washington, D.C. instead of New York. Such a small change is barely noticeable at takeoff. The nose of the airplane moves just a few feet, but when magnified across the entire United States, you end up hundreds of miles apart. Similarly, a slight change in your daily habits can guide your life to a very different destination. Making a choice that is 1% better or 1% worse seems significant in the moment, but over the span of moments that make up a lifetime, these choices determine the difference between who you are and who you could be. Success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformations. That said, it doesn't matter how successful or unsuccessful you are right now. What matters is whether your habits are putting you on the path towards success. You should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results. If you're a millionaire, but you spend more than you earn each month, then you're on a bad trajectory. If your spending habits don't change, it's not going to end well. Conversely, if you're broke, but you save a little bit every month, then you're on the path towards financial freedom, even if you're moving slower than you'd like. Your outcomes are a lagging measure. Your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. Your clutter is a lagging measure of your cleaning habits. You get what you repeat. If you want to predict where you're going to end up in life, you'll have to do the following. Follow the curve of tiny gains or tiny losses. See how your daily choices will compound 10 or 20 years down the lane. Are you spending less than you earn each month? Are you making it into the gym each week? Are you reading books and learning something new each day? Tiny battles like these are the ones that will define your future. Time magnifies the margin between success and failure. It will multiply whatever you feed it. Good habits make time your ally. Bad habits make time your enemy. Habits are a double-edged sword. Bad habits can cut you down just as easily as good habits can build you up, which is why understanding the details is crucial. You need to know how habits work and how to design them to your liking so you can avoid the dangerous half of the blade. Right. So, when we read about the cyclists, something I really want to talk about right now is that this author is talking about British cyclists. They're definitely not, what we could say. He's not talking about some saints, and he's not talking about some priests, and he's not talking about some preachers or somebody who's involved in dawa or somebody who's doing, 100% of time is spent in the masjid or something like that. Somebody who's regular in tahajjud or somebody who's praying constantly. He did not mention anything like that. He's just simply talking about somebody who calculated and formulated a plan and then worked hard. Why am I talking about this? Why did I find it interesting, and why do I feel like highlighting it? Is because I see a lack of action in the Muslim community. I see that the people of faith have become people of prayer only, and they are not doing anything to change their habits. They're not ready to change their habits. They're not even ready to change the way they think. And they're just ready to if they're reading the Quran, then they're only reading the Quran, they're not applying it, sorry to say. If they are learning something for the sake of Allah, they just keep on learning and keep on learning and keep on learning, and their love of learning is so overwhelming that they don't even have time to give to their families and to be do some community service, or they don't have time for their relatives, and there's so many things that get out of balance just because we start following one passion. It's like, just imagine if somebody goes to the gym and just keeps working on one bicep, and that's it, and the whole year he's just working on one bicep. So somewhere down the line we have ignored the importance of hard work and planning, and breaking and making habits. We have really not worked on it, and I do not see any scholars who are constantly actively doing some work on this. There may be some who are doing it. Some communities have very good masajid and they are doing very good job, but this should be a reminder that should be put out there many times, that there is a dire need for Muslims to apply what they know, to apply what they learn, to bring about tiny changes and be ready to change. Be ready to change. Accept change. Admit flaws. Admit insight. You don't have to go and tell everybody, Assalamu alaikum, I have this bad habit. No. But you have to admit within yourself, you have to have a list of habits that you need to change. You should know, and everybody knows, that this is a place where I need change. So, like, if I have a habit of like saying wrong things when I get I'm in a fit of anger, something goes wrong, like somebody burns the food or something, and I just start off talking, and then maybe I start off talking and I keep talking, or something like that. Anything similar, like somebody who has a habit of beating their children, and you have to change that habit. You're not allowed to. Somebody else has a habit of complaining too much to the husband, or and then they bring in the past and the in-laws and the 20 years ago you did this. So, like, if you have to change these habits, then what are you actively doing about them? So, and even in your house, even in your, like, if you want to be financially successful or independent, and what are you doing about it? And if you're not doing anything about it but praying, then my suggestion would be that you don't cook food. You just bring the groceries, put them on a table, and then sit on a musalla and start praying for the food to get ready. Start praying for the biryani to get ready. Start praying for that birthday cake to get ready by itself. Just put the ingredients and start praying. Start doing tahajjud. Let's see how long it takes for there are people who are not married or who are separated, and then they want to get married again, and they're asking me for advice, and I'm like, are you doing something about it? Yes, we are praying. Yes, we are praying. We are doing tahajjud as well. Nothing is happening. And my answer to them would be that, why don't you do this with food? I mean, you bring food and put it in the fridge and start doing tahajjud and see how long it takes for the food to get cooked. Your food is not going to get cooked when you pray tahajjud every day. Yeah, by some miracle, yes, maybe in 100 years, yeah, it might happen. But logically speaking, your food is not going to get ready. You have a baby, you want to feed the baby is crying, you put the milk bottle in the fridge, or the milk, the formula is in the pantry. You start praying tahajjud, the baby is not going to get fed. That's not how it works. But what have we done to ourselves as a community? What have we done to ourselves in these matters? Oh, Allah will decide. Allah has written this. And no, Allah has told us the proper means of doing things. We have to use the means. We have to exhaust the means alongside prayers. I'm not trying to belittle the prayers, but we have to take all possible means, halal means, all possible means. We have to take them. We shouldn't be shy in them. Shyness sometimes can become blameworthy. some modesty becomes blameworthy. It's called blameworthy modesty, and many scholars have spoken about it. Many classical scholars have spoken about it. We don't have to have, we should pray to Allah Ta'ala to not have blameworthy modesty. There are certain traits that are lack of courage is not appreciated. Like sometimes it is suggested that you don't get angry, but at the same time we overlap lack of courage and not being angry. We overlap these two. There's so much overlapping of emotions, so much overlapping of interpretations of Quran and Hadith, that we take one thing and mistake it as another, and then we get confused, and then we sit and just keep praying for things to happen, and we're just waiting for Allah Ta'ala to come and do things for us, and we are just sitting here and praying, and then when the prayers don't work out, and then like nobody, I haven't seen anyone who puts, you know, a bangan in a plate and sits in front of the, you know, puts it on the dining table and sits down on a musalla and starts praying, Ya Allah, cook my bangan for me. I mean, nobody has ever done that. So please, people, anybody, even if you're, I know, like especially those people, dear brothers and sisters who've been hurt in previous marriages, this is a very sensitive topic for me, because I have seen some friends and I've counseled some people over this. They're torn apart. My request, dear brothers and sisters, my dear sister especially, my suggestion is, never think that you will not be able to find somebody who's good enough. And pray for finding somebody good, but also use your means, please. Any means that you can use, any halal, jaiz means that you can use, any lawful way, you can try. Ask your friends or any good circles. If you can ask around. And please do not let any cultural barriers make you believe, give you false beliefs the way the Jahil people had before Islam. Islam came to relieve us from our burdens. Jahiliyyah puts burdens on people. It overburdens people. And kufr and jahalat, it increases those burdens. Like just imagine, I'm sitting here, right here, I'm talking to you guys. This is exactly how I can talk to God. But what Jahil people will tell you, they will tell you, no, you cannot talk directly to God. You need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, intermediaries, or even one intermediary. So this is what Jahalat does. It takes your freedom away. It doesn't even let you talk to God directly. How can it let you find a spouse? So don't let Jahiliyyah or Jahili people or Jahili culture, don't let them rob you of the ne'mah or the beauties of life that Allah has created for you. Because they will not only rob you of the beauty of this world that Allah has created for you, they will also rob you of, may Allah forbid, they will also rob you of the hereafter. So you have to be aware, you have to have that much awareness, and you have to have that much emotional intelligence. You have to have that much cultural awareness. You have to have that much consciousness and knowledge to differentiate between the two. Allah Ta'ala does not like people who don't use their reasoning. Allah Ta'ala does not like people, and I'm not making this up, it's in the Quran. Allah Ta'ala has spoken repeatedly about people, how He appreciates people who use their reasoning, and how Allah Ta'ala doesn't even call them insan, Allah calls them creatures, those who don't use their reasoning. And how Allah Ta'ala has so many times talked about people like deaf, dumb and blind. So we don't have to become deaf, dumb and blind. We have to analyze what's happening around us. We are not using means. We are not improving ourselves. We are just waiting, and even if something happens around us, we are like, Ya Allah, come and fix this for us. Ya Allah, come and save us. Ya Allah, come and fix this for us. And we are not even taking the slightest bit of means that we would have available. So I just request you, please go through this video, go through this book. If you only could go through these are 3 pages, I guess. 13, 14 and 15. If you could go through these 3-4 pages, just read them repeatedly till you understand the fact that this team of British cyclists that they're talking about, they did not do any tahajjud. They did not do any nawafil, any fasting, any going to somebody's tomb and praying. No, with all due respect, no Abdul Qadir Jilani and nobody like that. But for 10 years, 178 gold medals, 66 plus some other victories, and then 5 or 6 consecutive Tour de France. I mean, fine, we don't, that's also another discussion, what I call success and what I don't call success. But in terms of worldly success, they had a transformation. Now, the focus should be the transformation. I know some people would start scratching their heads and then scratching their misunderstandings and then think about, oh, she's talking about worldly success. No, I'm not talking about worldly success. The point is success and transformation. And this story can motivate anyone that they can change their habits, they can change their future if they only decide and analyze and microscopically analyze where you have to make the changes. And when you microscopically analyze and then you lie to yourself, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You may be microscopically analyzing and you somebody who has a grievance with an ex. Then you start microscopically analyzing, oh yeah, it happened because he did this and he did that and he did blah, blah, blah. No. You have to microscopically analyze yourself. I'm not saying blame yourself. Just tell yourself, yes, this is something where I need to learn this, and this is something where I need to learn that, and here is something that I can do about this habit, and here's something I can do about this habit. And slowly, all those changes together can turn you into a masterpiece, inshallah. And Assabiqun, and Allah Ta'ala has told us many times, run towards Allah Ta'ala, run towards Allah's forgiveness. We are told to compete. We are told to compete. We are told to earn a distinction. When Allah Ta'ala praises those on the right hand and those on, the scroll, those who will get their record in the left hand and those who are Assabiqun, Allah has told us to crave and yearn for distinction. So this is a story, a real story of people who became they became Assabiqun. They became Assabiqun with tiny habits, tiny habit changes. So my invitation to you guys, myself, because the things I'm talking about at first, they're going to my ears and my head. So may Allah accept from me and may Allah Ta'ala help me change and become a Assabiqun with tiny habits that I can change and develop and think and ponder and reflect upon, and I can just transform, inshallah, into a Assabiqun. So my invitation to you guys is also to ponder and jot down the habits that you could improve little by little. I can improve little bit here. I can improve little bit there. You can assign days. There are things that you have been wanting to do and you haven't been doing. You can assign days to them. There's 7 days a week. Say you have 7 assignments. Then rather than not doing them at all or doing them all in one day, assign 7 days, separate days. Today I'm going to do maths. I'm only going to do maths. Tomorrow, it's not math day. No touching math. It's only English day. Only English. I'm just giving an example. For me, it's like I love stitching. But I wasn't getting any time out of my assignments and stuff and studies. And I was like, when do I do this? So I just recently assigned a day to it. And that day, in 2 hours, I ended up making some 7 or 8 articles that I had been procrastinating on just because I hadn't assigned a time to it. So with very little change, just a switch in the mind, just a slight change, you can bring about big changes, inshallah. So we'll come back to it. We'll talk more about it later, inshallah. And for now, I really, really, really wish that you guys grab this book and go over it. And even if you wish to start a business, start doing tiny bit of planning, and jot down even the microscopic details, and then start working on 5 or 10 of those things that you need to get started. So even in business, this can help you. Even in life, it can help you. In relationships, this can help you. Every little counts. Like even if you start telling yourself that, okay, today I will tell my spouse I love you, or even I'll tell my children you're wonderful, good job, great job. Even if I just tell myself that I will start deliberately doing these things, then you will start seeing the changes. Sometimes I was counseling somebody, and there was this woman who was complaining that my husband is always cranky, and I was like, what about you? Do you ever, when was the last time you greeted him and smiled at him? And she couldn't remember. So sometimes the spouse is a reflection of your own face. If you see him frowning, then what about your face? Maybe you're also frowning all the time. So try to change your face. Try to smile a little more. Try to give a compliment a little more. So you will see a change. You will see a change. But this, of course, this does not apply to abusive relationships. I'm just talking about generally some things where still things can be, salvaged. So there are too many things to talk about, too little time. I don't want to digress, so I'll just call it off over here, so you guys can get some time and think about your habits that you need to give up on, and the habits that you need to start working on from right now, inshallah.